Welcome everyone to this FME World Fair 2021 presentation around distributed domain management and building a program on data collaboration. So my name is Brian McPhail. I am the program manager of the asset management data analytics team at York Region in the Transportation Services Department. York Region has been using FME for a while now, but in terms of myself, I wouldn't call myself a beginner user, maybe an intermediate user, and that might even be being nice to me, but you'll see in a bit here in terms of the FME that we put together. It's not too complicated, but at the same time, I just wanted to mention that obviously York Region is a big user of FME. We have a server implementation as well for FME, and we use it for a number of different business processes. The one we're going through today is just one instance of that. And with me today is Corey Fagan for the town of Aurora.
Thanks, Brian. My name is Corey Fagan. I am the Business Solution Supervisor for the Town of Aurora IT Division, the Corporate Services Department. We're fairly new to FME. We've been using it for just under a year now. We're starting to use it for a variety of GIS projects and some other data related projects. There's a lot of potential we found so far as any things around data automation, and it's just a great way to share data amongst the other government agencies such as York Region, and this would be one of many examples of that. We can really leverage the power of this software. So thanks, Brian.
So where are we from? To give some people some context of where York Region is and where the town of Aurora is, we just set up this slide to go through it. So we are located in Ontario, Canada, and we are just north of the city of Toronto. And within York Region, we have 9 local municipalities, one of which is the town of Aurora, which you can see on the map here with Aurora highlighted, York Region being the whole jurisdiction in yellow. The way the region and the town is set up is in a 2-tier government system. So for those who aren't familiar with it, 2-tier is really just shared responsibilities among the local municipalities and the region. And what that means is things like roads and underground infrastructure are all shared between both organizations or all organizations. For the roads, we at the region look after regional roads, those bigger trunk type or arterial type roads, and then the local municipalities will maintain the more connector roads in between those into local subdivisions and so on and so forth. So we do work very closely together on a number of different initiatives. One of our previous projects that some of the people on the presentation today might know of is the All Pipes program, shared data model to showcase how the pipes interconnect with one another. But because of the fact that we have residents are paying a single tax base, we do have to work together to make sure that those services to those residents are maintained and kept up to a certain standard. So that's why we have a really close partnership with our local municipalities. In addition to that too, the town of Aurora, as well as York Region and all the other local municipalities, including our conservation authorities and 2 school boards, are part of what's called the YorkInfo Partnership. And this is a partnership that's been around for actually 25 years this year. And really what this is a collaborative group that comes together. And initially it was to discuss GIS specific projects and initiatives, but it's really evolved over time into really becoming a data and analytics collaborative group. So this group comes together multiple times per year and we discuss things of data, analytics, GIS, whatever the case may be. And it's really a group of professionals that have some shared challenges, and we try to work through them together or come up with collaborative approaches to addressing some of these issues. So it's pretty exciting partnership to be a part of. And one of the, or I guess, what we're showing off today is really an outcome of that partnership. So really what this presentation is around was solving not a pretty simple issue, but an issue that really is felt by all local municipalities as well as the region. And really, how can we collaborate better on construction planning? That was really the crux of what we wanted to do here. So throughout the year, there's construction going on throughout York Region, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of jurisdictions. And what we wanted to do was just figure out a way that we could collaborate and coordinate these projects that are happening. For example, we didn't want to necessarily close down a road for the region on a regional road to do construction and then find an adjacent road from one of the local municipalities is also under construction as well. I mean, that just causes headaches for residents. So we wanted to find a way that we could easily schedule or space those pieces out. Now, previously, what had been done for coordinating these construction projects would be a series of emails back and forth to sort of say, okay, we're working on this road in 2023. Do you have anything in that area that might conflict? And there was these emails that would be exchanged, which worked at the time. And the challenge with that really is that as soon as that email is sent, it's out of date potentially, right? If a project gets shifted for whatever reason, coming up to budget constraints or just changes in the plan, that email would then need to be resent with the updated information, and then it would be up to the receiver to like kind of go through that email and figure out, okay, what's the most accurate representation of when this project's happening. So it was a bit of a, it was a bit confusing and so on from that perspective. So how can we really collaborate better on construction planning? Really, the answer was simple, and that's with data. So that's what this project is really about, is taking a look at the construction planning piece, creating data based on it, and figuring out how we can collaborate and coordinate better with construction planning. And really what we're going to show here and through some of the demos and some of the explanations is how we leveraged FME to help us with this, along with other software programs like ArcGIS Online to really build some of these products. So we're going to go through that today. So what is all construction? So all construction is, again, like this idea we've been talking about increasing collaboration between the region and local municipalities when it comes to construction planning. And what's happened so far was between September 2020 and December 2020, those 4 months, we brought together a pilot team, and we wanted to achieve these goals that we have listed on the screen here: minimum data model, document data flows, so on and so forth. And what we've done is leveraged FME to really help us with achieving the minimum data model. And what I'm going to showcase right now is a proof of concept, or at least one of the outputs of all construction pilot project, which is a map that showcases all of this data in one location. So I'm going to show that now. So this is the all construction viewer. So one of the products that came out of the pilot project that we had back in 2020 is the map itself. And what you're seeing here is an amalgamation of all the data that was shared by the pilot teams. What's really interesting about this is the fact that York Region or any other organization didn't copy any data from the local municipalities. It's actually just being shared through ArcGIS Online live from their own infrastructure. So however they decided to share it, whether they uploaded it to ArcGIS Online, whether it's coming off their own servers, didn't matter. It's all being shared in one location, and there's no copying that's happened, which is really powerful in and of itself, because it actually goes back to the municipalities to manage all their own data. The onus is not off an individual organization. Everybody's managing their own thing. But to showcase the power of all construction and really what we're trying to do with this, I'm going to zoom into this one location over here up in East Gwillimbury. We can see there's a couple of lines overlapping, and what we can do with a single click is I can see that it looks like there's going to be a fiber installation along this street in 2022. And it looks like East Gwillimbury is also going to be doing some surface treatment in 2021. So right there, that is a conversation starter right there. You can reach out to East Gwillimbury as the PM at York Region or vice versa to say, hey, look, if you're doing surface treatment in 2021, maybe this is our chance to lay down the fiber conduit at the same time. That way we're not coming in and ripping up another section of the road to then install the conduit a year later. So how does FME play into this? I'm assuming that's why everybody's here listening to this presentation, so let's get into that now. So aligning the data. We did talk about a minimum data model and how we wanted to lessen the impact of the existing business process, but we knew that there'd at least be some impact to the existing business processes within each organization. So how could we make this as easy as possible? Now, what we ended up doing that came out of the pilot group discussion was this need for a category project type. So like I said before, it didn't matter if you called it a road reconstruction or road recon or just road. How can we maybe bring this data together and identify that, doesn't matter what you called that, that's considered a road project? Or if you're doing underground work, how could we categorize all that to understand that that's like pipe work, for example? So that's what the group wanted to see, and that's really where FME really came in to say, you know what, this is a good solution to fix what we can do here. And this is really where that whole distributed domain management piece, which is the title of this presentation, comes into play here. So how could we do this? What we also wanted to make sure of was that it didn't come down to one organization to manage this domain, to say that Aurora's road reconstruction project type aligns to the road category, really, because it's not York Region's data to be dictating that. How can we say push that to the town and say, look, you guys can manage what you call your own projects and how it relates to the bigger categories, for example, and the same for all the other pilot organizations. So how could we really do this? And one of the theories that we came up with was if we all have access to ArcGIS Online, perhaps a shared table can maybe take care of this for us while leveraging FME to really help do some of that mapping of values. So that's what we ended up trying out. So we ended up creating an ArcGIS Online table, not unlike what you're seeing here at the bottom of the screen, where we had the all type or the category being roads, pipes, or intersections, and then followed by other fields listed as the municipality's name for each participating organization. So for example, the next field being Aurora, and then maybe York Region, and then Wichita, Stouffville, King, and Vaughan, and so on and so forth. And then within that, it would be up to Aurora to assign that road reconstruction, pedestrian crossing, bridge assessment, all fall under the category of roads. And they could manage that because it's a shared ArcGIS Online table that they have access to the software. They can go in and edit to their heart's content. So for example, if next year they come up with another one that's called road rehabilitation, they can just add road rehabilitation project type under the Aurora in the roads category, and then it would basically associate itself with that. And same for any other organization. So now that we had this table, we really had this domain that was managed by each individual organization tying to a single category, which we then could build into the FME that was being created. So in terms of the FME, what was ended up being built, and I'll showcase the workbench in a second because we all love looking at workbenches. I'll just go at a high level sort of what's happening within it. So the first part of the FME workbench is really to ingest the business data. So this being the town of Aurora's construction data, Wichita, Stouffville's construction data, King's, Vaughan's, what have you, and bring it in. It didn't matter what where the business was located, the business data was located. It could be an SDE, it could be in a file geodatabase, or if you happen to manage it in a shape file, then by all means, if that's the way you want to do it, that's the way you can do it. So it takes that in whatever format it is. It then aligns it, it joins it with the pick list that I kind of just showed, the ArcGIS Online table. It does that join based on the project type that was inputted for each organization and aligns it with the category and pulls that information over. So it then creates essentially either a new table, a new feature class, or adds to an existing one that new field column called category or all construction type, whatever it's going to be called, where it assigns for everything that Aurora has for road reconstruction, it now has a category of road. That's how that one works. There's a piece where it cleans up the data, so it gets rid of unnecessary fields, making sure that what's being outputted is a little bit nicer looking. If there's a redundant field, it just gets rid of it there. And then it actually outputs it. So it'll write it either back to the original input that it was put in, or if you have a separate data set that you're looking to output it to, it didn't matter. It could output it there as well. And then the final piece was a error logging piece. So we called it fix here. So it just identifies if you had a business project type that wasn't identified in that pick list in ArcGIS Online, it basically creates a list for you to say, okay, this project value wasn't mapped properly. So maybe you need to go into ArcGIS Online and assign that value properly. So just a little bit of basic error handling for everybody to understand maybe where they missed some opportunities. Now we're going to go into the actual demonstration for the workbench. There's a little bit of a snippet on the side here of what it looks like, but I'm going to showcase you how we built this FME, how we converted it into a template, and then provided it out to all participants of the All Construction program so they could easily leverage it within their organization and really spin it up within, I think, with under like 5 or 10 minutes. It's pretty straightforward in terms of how it goes. So I'm going to showcase that now. All right, so to start this demo today, what we're going to do is we're going to go to ArcGIS Online. And as mentioned before, this is kind of where we saved everything that relates to the All Construction pilot project. And within this group that we've set up, there's actually the templated FME dashboard, workbench. So by going to the Business to All Construction tool here in ArcGIS Online, you'll see that there's some metadata associated to this workbench. And actually what we've also implemented is a little bit of just basic versioning of the workbench as well. So I'm going to download the workbench. You see it just downloads pretty quick there and showing the folder. And what I'm going to do, just unzip it and have our workbench right here. So I'm just going to open this up here in FME 2020. So this is the All Construction workbench. As you can see here, it's very similar to the screenshot that was shown on a previous slide. Up in the top left, you'll notice here's the same documentation that was available in the ArcGIS Online item. So again, just a different location to find the same information. And the workbench is split up into the 5 categories that I kind of went through on a previous slide as well too. The first thing you'll notice is that it's not a very complicated workbench. There's only a few steps that really it needs to go through. But the idea behind that is, I mean, the process it's actually doing is not that complicated, but the idea being that it's a template tool so that it can work for any data set, for any organization that wants to join this All Construction program. So what you'll also see too is that the first section, the input, is actually blank right now because we don't have an input set up. And because we've got the town of Aurora with us today, Corey, helping us out with the demonstration, what I'm going to do is connect to his town of Aurora data. So there's really only a few steps that are needed to set this thing up. Obviously the input being one of them here, which is just added, but also to that pick list, that table in ArcGIS Online that gets edited by every organization needs to be added here. So all that really needs to happen is I'm going to connect up Corey's data to the joiner for the feature joiner for lines, as well as the feature joiner for the polygons. And because he doesn't have any point data, I'm actually just going to disable this. There's no point in running it if it's not going to do anything. The next reader I'm actually going to add is the pick list, or that table, that domain that gets edited by all the different users within all constructions. And I'm just going to connect it right up to the attribute splitter, as you see right here. And right there, that's all that needs to happen in order to implement data through this templated workbench. The way it sort of handles it is everything's going to be parameterized so that you'll explain, okay, what's the project type name in the business side of the data. When I hit run, it'll actually prompt for that. And then basically it'll work its magic on the back end to make those joins and align with the minimum data model. So the next step is just to run the model. So I'm just going to rerun everything. What you'll notice here is, as I mentioned, everything's parameterized. So what municipality is this going for? This is going for the town of Aurora. And this field, what this does is it relates it back to that pick list in ArcGIS Online to specify which field the workbench should be looking at to find the project type information. Obviously, which online connection I want to use would be my own. Now, for the sake of the demo here, I'm just writing to my temp folder on my C. Obviously, I don't advise doing that, but for the sake of the demo, I'm going to be doing it. Now, the name of the project type field in your data, what this references the business type. So what do you call project type within your own business within the construction data? So for Aurora, I just know it is type. So I'm going to put that in here. And I'm going to click run. It's a pretty straightforward workbench, so it doesn't take a whole lot of time to run. What it's doing is obviously scouring ArcGIS Online to find the Aurora information as well as the pick list, splitting the attributes from that pick list based on a semicolon so that if there's multiple types within a certain category, it'll make sure it assigns all of that. And then just processing it through to the output, that C drive file geodatabase that I have. And it looks like it's done already here too. So that really is the output. What we're going to find here, actually, and it looks like what there is a bit of an error here. So this is the error logging piece, which I again spoke to in a previous slide, but we'll notice that it looks like 7 project types actually didn't get a value assigned to them from the pick list. So we'll have to figure out what's going on with that. But then there was 6 projects that seem to get a all construction type without any issue. So we can see that those are populated there. So the nice thing about this reporting is I can kind of go in and see which project types are failing. And right now it looks like the type of road reconstruction is failing. It looks to be the same for all of them. So what I need to do in order to fix this issue is actually add road reconstruction to that pick list in ArcGIS Online. So what I'm going to do is actually pass this over to Corey now, and Corey is going to go make that change and then fix the values, and then we're going to rerun it and see what happens.
Thanks, Brian. As you can see here, I'm logged into my AGOL account for the town of Aurora. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to groups. And here's a list of all our internal groups and some groups from the York Region Co-op. I'm going to click on the Co-op All Construction Editing group. And from there, I should see all the content that's part of that group. So I'm going to go down to the data, the all construction pick list. And I could view it in a map, but I'm going to go to the data and make a slight modification here. So in here, I am going to add a new road type. And I'm going to call it road reconstruction. And I will close that out and save that. And that's pretty much, that's it for me. There's no exporting the data out. There's no uploading the data to Brian. And yeah, it's ready to go. So I guess back to you, Brian. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Corey. So now what we're going to do, now that the value has been added in, we're going to rerun this workbench and see what happens. So again, the parameters are saved because I just ran it. Don't need to change anything. I'm just going to rerun. So there we go. So it's rerun. And now if I zoom in on this piece here, you can see now that 13 were successful through the unfiltered and there's no nulls. So everything actually went through. So if I look down here, I can now see that road reconstruction has been assigned the all construction type of road. And that's as easy as it is there. So the idea behind this pick list is, again, obviously it's distributed management of this domain. It pushes it back to the organizations to manage their own data. So say if in next year when Corey's rerunning this, there's a new project type, road rehabilitation or something, if that's not on there already, he would just need to go into that pick list, type that in under probably the road classification. And when the next time he runs that FME, he's good to go. It'll fix it. It'll assign the category without any issue. And that really ends it for the presentation today. Corey and I are going to be online, I think, for the next 15 minutes or so to answer any questions. So we're happy to take whatever you got. Thanks.